Hi guys, so today we're looking at a Total War Attila mod that has been out for some time, still in its alpha stages, so whatever you see here is take it with a grain of salt, but it's just an excellent mod that's been out, it's come out. It's called Medieval Kingdoms Total War 1212 AD, and before we get into the point of the video, I'd just like to talk about the campaign build. We're still in version 1, as you can see here. If you go into the Grand Campaign, it looks like they're building a late campaign as well. Just excellent. It's an excellent mod. I recommend you, if you own the game Total War Attila, download this mod from Steam or from moddb.com. If you don't own the game, buy it when it's cheaper on Steam, and download the mod from Steam or moddb.com. I just want to show you the factions before we get into it. I do have some critiques for it. I'll get into that in the later videos. Of course, you can see here it's got some of my favorite factions. You got the Seljuk Sultan of Rome, which I was excited to play, but I do have some criticisms of it. The Empire, what else am I excited to play as? Of course, the Marinids, interesting faction. I'm excited to play also Empire of Nicaea is an interesting faction to play in my personal opinion for me, which I'm excited to play in the future. I'm also all the various Turkic sultans they have out there, such as the Khanate of Volga Bulgaria, or the Volga Bulgaria, the Zengid Atabeyt, would love to play them, and also my personal favorite, if I can find it, not the Illigizids. If I can find it somewhere. Here we go, the Gurids, the Gurid dynasty. Love to play that faction because of my. It's an amazing faction. In the history of it is amazing. Anyway, though I'll just get back to the point of the video. The point of the video is that, as you can see, if you go into custom battles, they do have a faction over here, the Ottoman Sultanate. Now the point of the video I'm making today is to just offer a critique of the units, in my opinion of them in historical terms. I won't be playing the game on or videos of the game since my computer is pretty shitty or pretty bad, so it will not be there. I'll just be offering just simple looks into the characters, and my critique of them, and just see what the team did really good. And just to put it out there, I could never do anything like this. This mod is absolutely fantastic. But anyway, we'll go into it one by one and look at each of these units, see where they fit, critique the units in historical terms, whether the Ottomans would have had them, were they actually there, and just look at just the amazing work that this team has done. I will be offering a lot of critique in this. I do see a lot of problems here, and a lot of improvements that could be made, in my opinion, to the roster. So let's just get started. So firstly, we'll start off with the generals units. So obviously the Ottoman Sultanate faction is in really early stages, but it does look a lot like the Seljuk Sultanate, and in my opinion, a lot of the units here in the Seljuk Sultanate, like the Akıncıs, would not be there. They would be no Kapukulus. They would have no Yeniçeri. Tüfekçis would also not be there. Great Bombard would not be there for this army, or the Byzantine army, in my opinion. What else would not? But anyway, we'll get to that later. We'll just focus on the Ottoman Sultanate today in this faction review. So, firstly, in the first general unit they have here is Pake Guards. Now, as far as I can tell, the pages, or the Pake, were not a military unit. They were the page men of the Kapıkulu men who were the highest ranking, in the sense that they're most studious and achieved the most, became pages. So probably if the palace was on the sea, the Pake Guard would come out. Otherwise, I doubt that I doubt there's even such a thing called a paid guard, in my opinion, and it could be replaced with a much more effective units, such as Baltaji guards or the Baltaji Corps or the Janissary Corps, who guarded the palaces, the halberdiers, in my opinion, the axe carriers. They would be a good replacement for the Baltajis. And just a note that when you do select one of these units, there is no general in. So if you choose a paid guard or Baltaji guard, it has only these paid guard units in it. So there'll be no sultan or horse rider. And I just find that a little bit. If they did add just one single unit, the captain or the general or the sultan, whenever you choose one of these units to ride a horse, these two land units, these two foot units, instead of just have one of them ride a horse to make it more believable. So next we have the Solak Guard archers. This is also accurate. The Solak Guard archers were the Sultan's most elite infantry unit. They always remain on his right side. They were all left-handed, and this is historically accurate in my opinion. Next will be Nöker bodyguards. Now, the Ottomans, Nöker means more of a sense of comrade. These are the comrades of the Sultan. So they weren't in later Ottoman years, maybe after the third Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Ottoman dynasty, there would not be no such thing as a Nöker bodyguards or comrades. Maybe during the early years of the Emirate, of Sultan Ottoman Emirate, they would have Nöker bodyguards, but they wouldn't have any of these during the later years, in my opinion. Other Turkic sultans would have. The Seljuk Sultan, of course, would have it. The Ghaznavids, the Ghurids, the Atabeyids, they will all have a Nöker bodyguards, in my opinion, but just not the Ottoman sultans, Ottoman Turks. So here we have the Kapıkulu Silahtar unit in the general section. Now, in historical terms, the Kapıkulu Silahtar consisted of 6 units. The Silahtar, the Sipahi, the 2 Güreba units or Porfela units, and the 2 Ulufeci units in general in all battles. In my opinion, I don't believe the Silahtar would take place in the generals section. Of course, all Sipahi units of the Sultan's Kapıkulu, the Süvaris, would have guard duties, of course, in battle, and reinforcement duties. They do not participate. In the most strictest of terms, when all else was equal, they did not participate in the initial shock and charge or the initial battle. They were always the reinforcement, shoring up the lines wherever they could, because they were the strongest and best of the Sultan's cavalry. So in my opinion, I don't believe that the Silahtar will be here in the general section. Maybe it is true that, in my opinion, that what I see so far, that it will be hard to create a historically accurate sultans or a general unit for the Ottoman Empire, because the Sultan did ride into battle, but they did not have a more sense a bodyguard. The general bodyguard was his 6 Kapıkulu units and his Solak archers, his foot archers that remained to his right hand side. So I do understand why they went with this, but just informing the viewers here that the Silahtar were not a better than everyone else unit. Next we have the shock infantry. Now over here I have to disagree with how the team what they chose in the shock infantry. See, the Kapıkulu heavy infantry, Kapıkulu meaning would encompass everyone in the Sultan's his household forces. The Kapıkulu meaning his household forces. So if the team wanted to make this one more accurate, they would call it Kapıkulu Yeniçeri heavy infantry, because the Yeniçeri themselves, all the Janissary soldiers, were shock infantry. What it seems to be here is a dismounted Sipahi knights, which they did in fact have, but just a simple name change will make it more historically accurate, in my opinion. The Sipahari units of the Kapukul always prefer to fight on horseback, and if they did fight dismounted, they would fight in something that was not to their advantage. They did not prefer it that way. Next, we have the spear infantry, where we have the Yaya. Now, the Yaya were the early attempts by the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire to create a standing army. They were not very effective, very indisciplined, and in the game terms, I believe they would only be available in early periods, in my opinion. Next, we have the Cerrahers. Now, these are more a Selçukid infantry type, as far as I know. Not commonly used in Ottoman Empire times, 13th century onwards. So, I do not believe they would be in the Ottoman unit section, in my opinion. We should go on to next to the polearm infantry. Over here we have the Voynich. Now this is a really great research on the team's behalf that they included the Voynichs, or the Christian soldiers of the Ottoman empires. They were mainly, as far as best I could say, if you watch my previous videos, they were the auxiliary infantry units of mainly Christians, in fact all Christians, and that is actually accurate over here. Did fight in European armor and European style. The Voynichs were mainly South Slavic, or from southern Bulgaria, Macedonia, and Serbia. These were mainly Christian soldiers, and that is in fact historically accurate. Next we have the Morpate Guards, which I do not believe they should be here. They should be replaced with the Baltaji units. There are many different Ottoman Empire or Janissary units that they can replace them with. They could replace them with the Houndskeepers, or they could replace them with the Bostanja, or these are the Baltaji, the Axe Guards I talked about before. The Houndskeepers, if they wanted to, they could replace them with the if they really stretched it, the Water Bearers, even though they never participated in a battle as much. The Pate Guards were not really a thing. There's no such thing as Pate Guards, or the page, as Pate means a page in Turkish. Usually the page writers of the Pals schools. Next we have here is Italian mercenaries. True, yes, the Turks did use Italian mercenaries from time to time, any kind of mercenary, Christian mercenaries. Also, this brings back to my previous unit here, the Cerrahers. These were, Cerrahers were more meant as a mercenary in translation terms. So that is also why they would not be here. The Ottomans never used the Cerrahers mercenaries. The next infantry unit here we have is the Yeniçeri Billmen. Now, the Billmen is of course weapons that they use, the polearm, the bill, and this is accurate. The Yeniçeri use a variety of weapons. They were heavy shock infantry, so in my opinion you can also put them, any Yeniçeri unit, in the shock infantry section. Just by looking at the art here and looking at the art in the game, very good, very well designed, and this is a completely accurate unit in this area. As you can see, I'm not looking at much into those stats because I'm not a Total War Attila player and I do not know much. I could go into them if you liked, but it wouldn't be an accurate representation of the game, in my opinion, if I did talk about the stats. And it's true, yeah, well, if you can look at here, you can see that they did have good armor. Yeniçeris wore excellent armor in historical terms. The uniforms, the earliest uniform we have of Yeniçeri dressing like this is from the 15th century, I believe. So we do not know, but they did wear a variety of colorful and flamboyant outfits. So in the melee infantry section, we have here is the Ahi warriors. Now, as far as I know, the Ottoman army, in historical terms, did not have Ahi warriors. Now, these men were, in more historical terms, the Ahi meant as, or Ahile was a fraternity and a guild, religious guilds that centered around various trades, and not much different than merchant republics, but a more religious sense. You can say that they did participate in battle. They did a lot of. They did focus around certain Sufi saints. Each one, for example, potters, pottery makers, and various other. I can't think of any medieval profession right now, but each one did center around a certain Sufi saint. I might make a video of them later on once I do more research into them. Now over here we do have the Haramis, or the bandits of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans did use them to conduct raids into enemy territory, just like the Akhinjis. They were both about mainly the same thing. What I suggest in this, that they do, they can hide in forests, but I suggest that they can hide almost anywhere because they were bandits. They knew the land really well. These men, you can look into the term as land Akhinjis or foot Akhinjis. Next here we have Marteloses, who are in the sense more or less Christian Haramis. In my opinion, if this game, if the Ottomans did take place on a map, if you imagine a map in front of you, the Marteloses could be recruited in the Rumeli or the European side, while the Haramis would be recruited in the Anatolian or the eastern side of the map for the Ottoman Empire. Here are some late era Marteloses. As you can see, European armor, very well designed, in my opinion. Next we would have over here more Nurker guards. In my opinion, they should not be here. If we completely remove the Nurkers, the Ottomans did not have. They moved away from more Turkoman or Mongolian type armies when they were developing their own unique style of fighting. Now we have here some Zırhlı Yeniçeri archers, historically accurate. It's accurate they were in melee infantry because they could do both. They were excellent archers as well as fighters. Over here we have some Azabs. In my opinion, I feel like the Azabs could be bow infantry in the same sense of in Zırhlı Yeniçeri archers in the same section with bows and melee attack. If we just compare the melee attack of 20 to 25, the Azabs were the main melee infantry for in the mass sense of the terms. They used them the most. They were the screening force of the battle. If an Ottoman army did they used these men as much as they could. They would come in mass during a campaign time, join the army, and throw their lives on the line to gain that really important bonus that they would achieve and become a Timali Sipahi and get some nice titles from their bravery. Here we have Yeniçeri archers. There's nothing wrong with these units, completely correct. Salak Guard archers, if you went with one of these other ones, you can add yourself another Salak Guard. I would limit these to one army, in my opinion. You would not have more than one Salak Guard. Crossbow infantry, we have some Eflak crossbowmen. Crossbows weren't really used by Ottomans that much. So the crossbows weren't really used by the Ottomans that much. Eflak here meaning Wallachia. So these men will be Christians from the Wallachian province. Here we have some mercenary Genoese crossbowmen from the Genoese colonies around the Anatolia. Tüfekçi Yeniçeri, so the Ottomans made great use of their cannons and their firearms, and the Yenicheris were the first standing army to adopt firearms in Europe. And it is, in my opinion, these should be the most devastating units of in missile damage, and they are. They were the best gunners of their time for a good 200 years. And there's no mistake in historical accuracy here. We don't see any other handgunner infantry here because there were a lot of attempts to restrict gun carrying in the Ottoman Empire. Next we have some Muselems in the melee cavalry section. And here we have some Muselems in the melee cavalry section. In history, the Ottomans tried their first attempt at a standing army with the Yaya, and those who could afford horses were called the Muselems. These were early attempts at the Ottomans' capicola system, and they were not very effective. So if this was in the campaign mode, I suggest that for the developers, have these early on instead of the Yenicheris, but once the Yenicheris do come into play, have them become extremely devastating and effective. Here we have Delhi cavalry, and just look at the art here. I will show you later on, specifically this unit, just how amazing the artwork is. It's really historically accurate. These Delhi cavalry, mainly in historical sense, these came out, if you watch my videos on the history of the Delhi cavalry, they came out in Bosnia to replace the Akinjis in that area. Over here we have Askeri nobles. Askeri was the whole, this Askeri nobles translates to nobles. There is really no need for this unit here. I will replace this unit with another Timali Sipahi, and I'll come to that later in a bit. As to what they can replace this unit with. Even more Askeri nobles here. I will replace these two units with some Timali Sipahis. In my opinion, Rumeli Timali Sipahis. I create a new unit of Timali Sipahis, European Timali Sipahis. Jebelus, if you watch my videos, they are there, more in soldier types. Historically accurate. They did have Jebelus in the Ottoman army. The Jebelus were mainly the armed retinue of the Ottoman officials in early on. They were mainly a light cavalry unit. Not, as you can see here, yes, they were light shot cavalry, this is historically accurate. Late Jebelus, correct. Also correct. Nice design over here. Here are the Timali Sipahis, and we have two Timali Sipahis. Just one unit of Timali Sipahis and a shock cavalry. In what I would suggest that the developers do is make another Timali Sipahi unit. Keep this one as Anatolian Rumeli Sipahis, and create a more European one on this side as Rumeli. In fact, actually, have the Anatolian Timali Sipahis on the bow cavalry section in Turco-Mongol armor, something similar to these Turco-Mongol tribe cavalry, something similar to this, with bows, more focus on bows, and have actually replace the Noker heavy horse arch units with the Timali Anatolian Timali Sipahis, and make this a Rumeli Sipahi unit, because there were two types of Timali Sipahis in the Ottoman Empire, the ones from Anatolia and the ones from European side, and they were both distinct in the ways that they armed themselves. And I wish the game would in this mod would address that more accurately, in my opinion, because that was a huge part of the Ottomans, the two sides of the Timali Sipahis. What else do we have here? We have some, we don't need no Noker lances. There's no such thing as the Ottomans did not make too much use of there was no use of Nokers, in my opinion, by Ottomans, of the Ottoman Turks. Other Turks, yes, other Tatars and other Turkic nations, but not the Ottomans. Balkan nobles, yes, the Ottomans did have a lot of knights, not a lot of knights, but they did have the Serbian forces who fought with the Ottomans in heavy armor. And as you can see here, they're expensive unit, but really good. Here, more Timali Sipahis, but late, which is accurate in terms. The armor changes with the vest covers and the nice designs. And here's the Kapakula Sipahi, which is, in fact, I would just have it, the Kapakula Sipahi, just use the 6 names, the Gurebas, the 6 forces of the Timali Sipahi. In my opinion, just have the 6. So over here we have the Kapakula Sipahi units. So the Ottomans, as I said before, had 6 units of Kapakula Siparis. The weapon bearers, the Silahdar, the Sipah, so 1 unit of Sipah, the right salaried men, the left salaried men, the right poor foreigners, or the Gurebas, and the left poor foreigners. So just to more accurately reflect, the Sipahis have 1 in each melee cavalry, shock cavalry, and bow cavalry have, or 2 in each, to accurately represent the Sipahi units, so that I can have, if I was to build an army, I would have all 6 of them in my army. The same goes with the bow cavalry. We have the Akinjis, historically accurate, recruited in the frontier provinces of Europe, not in Anatolia. If the game was to be more accurate, I would have them only recruitable in the European provinces. With the Tatar horse archers, they would come to replace the Akinjis later on. Turkoman tribal cavalry. Ottomans did not make use of Turkoman tribal cavalry later on. You would just replace these with Anatolian Sipahi, in my opinion. Anatolian Timali Sipahis. No need for Noker horse archers, just to slim down the roster, because it does look a bit bloated and confusing. We have Kapakula Garibs, which is accurate. No need for Noker heavy horse archers again. Just remove all the Noker archers completely, and the Noker units completely from this. Keep them with, keep the Nokers with the Seljuks, and remove the Yenicheris from the Seljuk Sultanates. And Kapakul Ulufeji. So they have two units. If he made these left and right, and also these left and right units, it will be more historically accurate and more accurate to the gameplay. Knife throwers, Humbarajis will be Yenicheri units, or Grenadiers. Which is they should do, grenade throwers, and Nafatun, not too familiar, and I must apologize, I'm not too familiar with the Naf throwing, not at all in what I've learned so far in history. Next we have the artillery. The Ottomans made use of heavy artillery and massed artillery as much as they could. Mortars, bombards, culverins, all they made use of. I will not have a great bombard in the army for the other units, just as we can look here. If we go into Empire of Nakia, they have a great bombard. I wouldn't have one there, in my opinion. So that's just a unit. So next I would just like to jump in and then show each unit one by one. Or just, in fact, I'll just build an army for you right here. So I'll go, we'll build one Kapakula Silata unit here. One, so like, we would have a lot of Azabs, just to make it historically accurate. What else would we have in the army? We would have cannons that form the main center, so 2 culverins, 2 bombards. We'll have 2 mortars, 2 culverins on 3 culverins, and that's about as accurate as we get. We would have hand gunner units, just 3 of those. Unitary archers and unitary, I'll call these unitary heavy infantry because they were the shock infantry type. And when it comes to cavalry, what would you have here? We would have some, we'll keep it simple. We'll have, just to show you, some Akangers, 2 units of Akanger. We would have, so we have 1 Sipahi unit, Kapakula Silata. We need 5 more, so we have 1 Kapakula Sipah, keep them here. 2 Kapakula Ilifijis, and 2 Kapakula Garibs. And just to make it more accurate, we'll just take our 1 Azab here and fill the rest with Timali Sipahis, which you can find here. Just to show you, and we'll go here and give them 1 unit of these, just so we can play the game. So just to show you a standard composition of an Ottoman army in historical terms, and I'll try to build it out for you. So the center would have a sultan, which in front would have his cannons, a center of unitary gunners. Of course, I would like to see the addition of war wagons, but they did come out during the 15th century. Or 1444 was the time we see the Ottomans first use them in the Tabu Cengeri, which they learned from the Hussite Wars. And I would really like to see some armored war wagons on the Ottoman Empire side to really do the Tabu Cengeri formation, but we can build one here. Next we have the unitary archers, which will sit at the back of the units. We have the lines, the very large line of Azabs, the screening forces. Over here in front, this would form the center. Then we would have the Kapakula heavy infantry just right here, and the wings. I'm using this in games terms. They would all form the center. In fact, the Kapakula, they weren't in real life, they weren't divided amongst archers and gunners and divisions like that. They all were trained in all the weapons. And then we'll have the Timali Sipahi. So in historical terms, if there was an Anatolian one, if this was in Anatolia, we would have the European Timali Sipahis, which would be lower number on the left side, and the much larger Anatolian Sipahis on the right side of the battle. which leaves us to 6 units or so. First we're moving Archangels in front to charge at the enemy. We'll have now move the 6 units of the Sipah, of the Suvari units. We have here is the Kapakula Garibs and Kapakula Fiji, so we keep these 2 units on the left of the Sultan, and these come here on the right side of the Sultan. So this is what a typical Ottoman formation would look like in battle in real life. In this sense, the front screening forces would attack, charging at the enemy, causing diversion, with the Archangels usually charging into and then later running off if the fighting got too tough, while the left would stay in reinforcements. These units themselves, these left-hand side units would stay in the reinforcement section, while the Azabs did the fighting. And when they broke off the side, they were ordered to retreat. The Timali Sipahis would do various attacks, charges, feints, retreats, a lot of archery to weaken the enemy, weaken their knights as they retreated, as they were keeping drawing them into the center, where they would face heavy cannon fire, heavy archer fire, heavy fire from the Janissaries if they had guns. Most of the fighting would be done by the Sipahi units when they would charge, break, retreat, charge again, and continuously raining down arrows on the enemy. When the enemy was looking like it was about to break or be defeated, that's when the Janissaries would charge in. The shock infantry, the heavy infantry would charge. I mean, just look at it. Just even my shitty graphics card can still show the amount of detail that went into these units. Just amazing. Just the axes are amazing. So in battle, these units would do the crushing blow and crush the enemy center in their final charge, if they could, and then win the day. While the left-hand side would stay back, or rout the enemy, chase on the routing enemies when the time came, or provide reinforcements. Same with all Kapakula. So if this was a battlefield, this would be the camp area, the Ottoman all way back there. These would protect the baggage train. They would not engage in the battle that much, the Kapakula units. They were mainly there to protect the baggage train and the body of the Sultan himself. This was the most important part. They protected the pay of the soldiers, they protected the food of the soldiers, and they did the killing blow when needed. So anyway, that would be an end to this episode. If I do get a graphics card that's good in the future, I will much better in the future. I will make a full playthrough. Probably by then, in my opinion, the mod will be finished by the time I get a graphics card like that. But if you did enjoy this video, please wait and subscribe for more. It's coming out in the future. The videos do get better as I learn more from video editing and creating videos, as I do love to talk about Ottoman history, and I haven't seen enough Ottoman history channels in English, in my opinion. So I just want to share just in a very beautiful, not just in battle, but in terms of art and history and culture, a beautiful culture that was part of the world. So thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.